Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for stopping in. So I've always had this passion for mythology and comic books. They've gone hand in hand for me. I mean, my first exposure to real mythology, like I said, oftentimes was Clash of the Titans. That got me into reading books about mythology. From reading books about mythology, I came across Thor. That led me into Thor comic books. So I kind of developed this passion for the two, almost like interdependent on each other. So I was looking at some of the DC characters, and this isn't my list. This is a list that I found. And what they're really doing is equating the Justice League characters to various gods, a lot of them out of Greek mythology. So I thought this was a fascinating segment to look at here. So the first character was obviously the Flash. I wanted to look at the Flash because obviously they just released this recent Flash movie, and I've never really been up on that character, right? I'm aware of the Flash. I've seen him in the cartoons, but I've never really known much about his backstory, even though I remember the Flashpoint paradox, which takes him into a whole interesting realm of like not just speed, but also time travel, and changing fates in an alternate universe, all stemming from this character. So I wanted to understand what the mythology is. So obviously, when you look at this character, the first thing you think about if Greek mythology is going to be Hermes, and that's what this person here is. That they associate Flash as a representation, modern storytelling of Hermes, who was the god of travel. Okay. The next one that we see here, and that I don't know if is Green Lantern as being associated with Apollo. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that take, because I don't know. I guess it is kind of an interesting take. But I get thrown off by the story of the willpower and the green and the whole Lantern Corps. But I guess I can make that association that his powers are kind of shown as an energy form that are ultimately associated with light. Even though I thought with Apollo it was more of a sun power. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that one. Green Arrow as Artemis, the god of the hunt, absolutely makes sense to me. This is totally, I think, spot on. This is a good assessment. I think the character, anytime you pull in a bow, especially in modern storytelling where you'd have, different type of weaponry, I think there's definitely a clear connection back to that past. And Artemis makes absolute sense for me on that equation. On this one, Plastic Man is Dionysus, the god of festivity. I don't understand this at all. Unless somehow, in fact, I don't even like any of the stretchy characters at all. I think it's one of the stupidest powers. This one I don't agree with because I don't understand. The god of festivity, I guess without knowing the character of the character, right? The personality of the character, it's difficult. But I was lost. Maybe you guys can throw me some insight on that. But so far, I think the list is holding up reasonably well. The next one, Batman as Hades, the god of death. Man. I guess if I had to pull out of, I don't know, I don't know. Because I associate Batman, I don't see how he's the god of death because he doesn't kill himself. I don't see anything like, Batman is still just a mentally disturbed kid who had a lot of money and went on this, maybe rightfully so, this quest to save his city. So I don't know if I see a lot of Hades in this. In fact, I don't see very much of Hades in Batman. Although I can see when you're trying to match gods up, this is where it would lead you because there wasn't much else. And there's a reason I'm going to say my natural instinct would be Hephaestus, but I can see why they didn't go Hephaestus in this scenario. Instead, Steel is Hephaestus. This totally makes sense because it's association with technology and weapons making. Although I don't think Hephaestus ever used any of his weapons for himself, so... that one I would look at more of him because I think he had like a leg disability. So I would have looked at more of just a pure weapons maker to have been like that Hephaestus because he's always kind of detached and gives weapons to Athena, gives weapons to Achilles. So I can kind of see it here, but this is kind of where I would have plugged Batman in. Well, Batman's also a warrior too. So I guess Hephaestus kind of doesn't work, but I can see where they're going here. Technology, although I might have gone a different character here. Okay, the next one here, this is the easiest one here. Aquaman obviously is the representation of the god of the ocean. So Poseidon, Neptune, they've never hidden this. I think that's an association that we've all made. Anytime you bring up Atlantis, we're going to think along those lines. So I think that one's obviously spot on. But I also think that's probably one of the easiest ones out of the Justice League. Orion as Ares, the god of war. Now, Orion, the way I understand it, is the son of Darkseid, who takes on a whole different personality, but he's this highly trained warrior. I don't know. I don't know this character very well, to be really, really honest. I think I'm confusing with another Marvel character, but okay, I'm willing to accept that one. So far the list it's reasonable. I'd say they're about 50, a little better than 50%. That's the third one. Then the next two get a little more interesting. Wonder Woman being a representation of Athena. Now, this is the whole thing. I don't see Diana as particularly wise. She's still kind of portrayed as somewhat of a very emotional warrior who sometimes will bust you in the head before she answers questions. I don't know if that necessarily goes along with Athena, who outsmarted Ares, and then also Ares is a contemporary in the story. So the Greek gods they talk about were the foundation for her story because that's how she was created, right? And embodied by the gods. So trying to associate Diana as Athena, I think it's a little bit of a stretch because they could actually have they do have a representation of Athena in the actual story. Though, so I don't agree with that one. And this one, Superman is Zeus, the god of lightning. Well, that makes sense, but I think in a more roundabout way because Superman's association is with the sun. If we go back to the original associations of Zeus, again, coming out of North African belief systems, obviously he's associated with Amon, who is the solar deity. So I do see that kind of lineage. I definitely see Superman as a representation of a solar deity. Draws his power directly from it, and how his powers manifest as godlike on this world where we live. So again, looking at this list, I love the attempt to associate I think so much of mythology is drawn into comic books. Vixen relies heavily on mythology. Again, Wonder Woman Nubia story relies heavily on mythology. So lots of the characters do. I don't know if there's a direct we can point the finger from one character to the next and make it hold up. And I don't think this list holds up very well. So I like the list. I like the idea of it. That's me going through it. But give me your thoughts and opinions on how the Justice League lines up with the Greek Pantheon.